Alright, so today's video is on the 2010 Honda Insight CVT fluid filter, and cooler filter. I start first by removing the wheel well trim, which is just a couple of pins, and then there are some screws underneath the car. Once you get that out of the way, you could go ahead and drain the fluid, and as you'll see in the next clip, we start after that. I have the pan here removed, and I have it just right here. And it was quite difficult to get off. Getting the bolts out was not too bad. I recommend using a piece of cardboard like so to just keep them organized because they are of varying lengths. But they're all 10mm bolts and they're torqued down pretty nicely. So once you get them cracked, you could just take an impact and spit them out. But then, well, first you drain your pan here, and that's a 3/8 on the drain bolt with the magnetic filter. But I had the issue of, this is most likely a stock gasket here. Once I got all these bolts out, I was beating on it with a little mallet here, and I could not get it out for the life of me. So what I actually did was, and this is just a nice little tip, reinsert your 3/8 drain bolt, get your 3/8 head in there, and all I did was I had it in there firmly, took your mallet right on the end, and that popped it out. And then it does have these little placement pins, I guess, holding it in so it doesn't pop right off. So don't keep beating on it if it cracks, a little, if you get it cracked open a little. Just be wary, wiggle these out, and then you could go ahead and clean your magnetic filters there. Make sure you clean your drain bolt magnetic head, and then you could go ahead and pop the filter out, which is right there, and then your get it in focus, your cooler filter is right on that line. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get this cleaned up. I'm gonna make sure to get this old gasket removed really well, because it seemed like it was starting to really, either it was maybe an adhesive gasket from the factory, or it was almost oxidized to the casing, because it's all aluminum. So I'm gonna get that cleaned up and we'll see. Alrighty, so I got the gasket surface nice and cleaned up, scraped down. I used some brake parts cleaner and took the magnets out, got those cleaned up, both of them. And I got the pan pretty clean. So I'm just gonna hop under the car now and then try and get the residual gasket off the other side, on the underside of the CVT. Alright, so once you have both the pan scraped off and the underside of the car pretty clean, you're going to want to either go with the stock gasket that you can get at Honda dealers, which I did not have. In my case, I had a silicone gasket, which I got off Amazon. I would not recommend going with that gasket. It leaked on me immediately, so I actually had to redo the job. What I did was I used just RTV, about an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch thick all around, and around the bolts as well. Then I torqued to half spec, let it dry for an hour, torqued to full spec, let it dry for about a day almost, and then filled it up. And that has not leaked on me. There is a cork gasket as well that comes with the filter that I bought, but I was advised by several automotive mechanics not to use cork gaskets anymore, as they dry out over time. And something like this that you're not going to want to crack open for another 40, 60,000 miles or so, you probably want to just either use RTV or see if you can get an OEM Honda silicone gasket. The fluid filter was pretty easy to get out. Just pop your lines off. Then there's two 10mm bolts holding it on. It comes out in a bracket, and mine was rusted together, so I just had to bend it a little to get the bracket off, and then I bent it right back to get the new one in. Then I just bolt it right back up, and I reattach my lines, reclamp them down, and that was it. Alrighty, so for torque specs, you're looking at about 12 Newton meters, which is about 9 foot-pounds. Like I said, I just went around and torqued each bolt. I kind of went in a star pattern, like you're supposed to go for most transmissions, and that seemed to, like I said, hold well for me. Similarly, I also torqued the filter to about 9 foot-pounds inside the transmission. No issues there. I used the ATP filter, which I showed earlier, and that one seems to be pretty decent quality. Generally, I'd just avoid that cheaper Amazon kit. As the gasket didn't hold, I didn't use the filter, but I'd imagine it's not the greatest. I picked up the Honda OEM CVT fluid from my local dealership. I got 4 quarts, and I had about half a quart remaining from the last time I had done my fluid change, and I used almost all of it at about 4 1/4 quarts. So I definitely recommend picking up about 5 quarts. So it wasn't too bad of a job overall. Just make sure you have your gaskets set up, and you pick up, a reputable gasket. Make sure both your mating surfaces are pretty clean. Take a Scotch-Brite pad if you need to, and just make sure that you have a good seal on it. Beyond that, it's not too difficult to fill up. To check the level, I believe you just run the car till it's hot. So you want to make sure your radiator fan comes on, or just drive around for a little while. And then once you park it, wait about a minute, check the dipstick, clean it off, check it again. And as long as you're between those two hot lines or dots on the dipstick, you're all good. And you're set for the next about 40,000 miles or so. Once I had my CVT all apart, I was genuinely impressed with how clean it was in there. The magnets had a little bit of buildup on them, but it wasn't too notable. Same thing with the filter. It was just a little gray. So hopefully I can help some people out, and some of these tricks work for you. I'm not a mechanic, so definitely take what I say with a grain of salt. But let me know if you have questions, and hopefully it works out for you. Best of luck.